Now, have you ever had that gut feeling or that gentle whisper that offers some insight, only to immediately second guess yourself because you don't know where it came from? Okay, maybe you're aware enough to ask, wait, is this my intuition guiding me or is it just anxiety talking? Or maybe you were like I was, spending decades wrestling with that exact confusion. Now, welcome back. My name's LG, and for years I lived trapped in doubt. Okay, mistaking anxiety for intuition, sabotaging opportunities, sabotaging relationships, sabotaging everything in my life, basically. And I was just constantly holding myself back. And today I'm going to share the ultimate guide that transformed everything for me. Okay, helping me clearly discern my intuitive nudges from those anxious, fear-based thoughts. And if you stick around to the end, because I'll be walking you through probably the most powerful intuitive practice or technique that my mentor William Whitecloud ever taught me. Right, and there's a reason why I'm saving it for last. It's an advanced technique, and before you go jumping into it, I recommend building a foundational relationship with your intuition using the more practical, beginner-friendly tools that I'll cover first. Now, I still use this practice on a daily basis, right? But especially when I'm seeking clarity or guidance for my next aligned step in life. So if you've ever felt stuck or paralyzed by uncertainty or overwhelmed by that constant mental chatter, that noise in your head, then today's video is for you. Because by the end, you won't just understand the difference, you'll have the confidence to trust that inner guidance like never before. Okay, and this is one of those videos that you might want to save and revisit as your connection with your intuition deepens, develops, cultivates, however you want to talk about it. Okay, so let's clarify why intuition and anxiety feel so similar, right? Both intuition and anxiety, they show up as physical sensations in the body. You know, you might have a tightness in the chest, butterflies in your stomach, you know, a racing heart. And that's why it's confusing, right? And for years, especially through my 20s and 30s, you know, I was, as I've said before, I was deep in addiction, right? Lost in unhealthy relationships. And I was constantly experiencing that uneasy feeling in my gut, right? But I didn't understand how to read it. I didn't even really know what intuition was, right? And back then I could have asked, right? Was it intuition warning me that something was wrong? Or was that anxiety stemmed from the fear or the shame or the unresolved trauma? But I wasn't aware enough to ask those questions. And this is why I'm introducing it here in today's video, right? So anxiety is rooted in fear and scarcity, right? It's loud, it's repetitive, it's frantic. Okay, it worries about the past or, you know, catastrophizes about the future. Whereas intuition, on the other hand, this is like calm, right? It's wise, right? And it comes from within. It feels clear, steady, peaceful. Okay, even if the guidance itself, it's going to challenge you to get out your comfort zone. Because remember, it's what's best for you, not what is easy for you. It's what's best for you. And it took me a long time, right? And I'm talking decades of, you know, the same repeating mistakes, painful mistakes, to recognize that my anxiety was screaming to keep me safe, right? Safe in the known, safe in the predictable, even when that safe was actually destroying my life. It really didn't care about my happiness or my success or anything. Whereas intuition, it was always there, okay, gently guiding me towards growth, truth, expansion. Okay, and here's something that I didn't, you know, always know, right? Intuition is one of my spiritual gifts. I've always had it. I just didn't know how to recognize it or how to consciously listen to it, right? And I'll tell you a story, okay? Back in the day, right, when I was running around the streets with my gang, right, I was up to no good, lost in just this chaotic lifestyle. I had a big mate called Willie Wilson, right? And he used to call me Hawkeye McRae because he said that I always seemed to know when the police were coming or when our kind of rival gangs were about to kind of roll up, right? So I couldn't explain it, right? But I just knew, right? And it was like I had this sixth sense. And back then, right, I just laughed it off because I didn't really know any different. But now looking back with what I know, I realize that's my intuition. Okay, that sixth sense was that deep inner knowing that protected me, even when I wasn't conscious of it. Now, today I see that same gift clearly because I've trained myself to trust it fully, not from fear, but from truth. And listen, I'm not no guru or expert. I'm still a human who has the same human issues, but I don't make the same mistakes as I used to make. I don't get into the same situations as I used to, and that's all down to my intuition. Because they will speak to you differently, right? Anxiety speaks through urgency, panic, rushed decisions, fearful thoughts. What if I fail? What if they reject me? Right? Confusion, overwhelm, right? Try to avoid, uncertainty and risk. Whereas intuition, on the other hand, that communicates as I said, that calm, clear, that grounded messages, patient, steady, and no need for that immediate reaction. Okay, and it's encouraging, right? It's authenticity, growth, expansion, right? It's just that inner knowing, that deep alignment between those surface level fears, right? And go back to when I first thought of launching this YouTube channel. I had so much anxiety, right? What if they judge me, right? What if nobody watches you, right? You're not ready. Nobody's going to listen to what you're going to say. They're going to think you're crazy, right? So I felt this urgent panic, but my intuition, right? It was there as well, right? It was telling me, you're meant for this, right? Someone out there needs to hear your story. Even though I felt fear, intuition was there, peaceful and clear beneath all that discomfort. Okay, and it guided me to take that step. Now, there is a psychological reason why the mind mixes these up, right? Your brain, right? It is your brain is wired to protect you, right? It's wired for safety, okay, for survival, right? It's not wired for growth. So anxiety, it traps you into the survival instincts. It wants predictability, safety, familiarity, right? When we were growing up, okay, many of us were conditioned to doubt our inner voice, right? For me, especially, right? Experiences of rejection, trauma, right? Abandonment, right? They train the subconscious mind to mistrust the intuition, right? Viewing those anxious warnings as safer and more predictable. Okay, and that's the key word, because they're more predictable, right? So for me, my childhood wounds, as I've said before, they stem from my parents' separation, right? And even though my parents were amazing people, they didn't get along. But I didn't see that, right? I seen it as was my fault. Okay, then I was rejected by my peers because I lived for a period of time in South Africa. I came back to the UK. I had a different accent. I came into a very toxic, neighbourhood where there was a lot of crime and gangs and stuff. So there was bullying, right? Because I had that different accent, because my brother and I were different. So I was always fighting my battles, fighting his battles because he was my younger brother, right? And then that led to struggles with addiction, which conditioned me to constantly anticipate danger, humiliation, or abandonment, right? Anxiety was such a familiar voice to me, and I mistakenly trusted that, even though it kept me stuck. And this is why the doctor said I had social anxiety disorder. And they're so quick to throw you on medication without trying to understand why. I had to find that out myself. And that was when I had my spiritual awakening. And I didn't dive deep into this until I had that. So I spent then the years after that doing a lot of healing. And then I could clearly distinguish, between the anxious protection, ego-based fear, and then the intuitive guidance, my soul-based truth, right? And it wasn't until my spiritual awakening that I was also guided to find people who were more aligned with it, right? So I found mentors like Chris Duncan. And Chris Duncan, I didn't actually know who he was. When I had my spiritual awakening, my experience, I had a vision of a guy standing on stage with red hair, and it was him. Okay, and you might think I'm crazy, but hey ho, that won't be new. But then from Chris, then I was guided to William Whitecloud, who was probably the most influential mentor I've ever had, right? And he taught me how to truly listen to my intuition, right? Moving beyond that, anxiety, those limiting beliefs, that limiting voice that my anxiety would, constantly be smashing into my head. So how can we discern intuition from anxiety. And it's what is it they say? It's simple, but it's not easy, right? Because what you if you were like me, I could never sit at peace. So when I started meditating, I found it was difficult. That's why it took me probably about 10 years from being introduced to it to actually going on it, right? But what you can do is when you're going through whatever, right? So when you're uncertain, right, just pause, right? Take 3 to 5 deep breaths, right? And big belly breaths, right? And in through the nose, out through the mouth, okay? Fully in, right into the belly, and then fully out. Okay, because anxiety hates pauses, right? It wants immediate reactions, whereas intuition, that thrives in stillness, and that's when you'll get your clarity, right? And then once you've chilled yourself out and you're present, which I would like to say, then you ask yourself clearly, how does this feel in my body? So if you are looking for guidance or you want the next step or something, take a big deep breath and then you ask, how does it feel in my body? Where am I feeling these sensations? Because anxiety feels constrictive, tight, panicky. Intuition feels open, expansive, grounded. Anxiety will lead you from fear, where intuition will take you to purpose. Okay, and then you've got the step back question. So you ask yourself, if fear wasn't a factor, what would my heart genuinely choose? Now, that's a simple question, right? But that bypasses anxiety and immediately, brings up the intuitive truth. So when I face the choice of openly sharing my, YouTube or my addictions and my spirituality, right? When I decided to openly share that, and my anxiety was immediately, people are going to reject you. Nobody's going to listen to you, right? But my intuition, it said to me, your authenticity will heal others, right? So using these techniques, it helps me understand what voice to trust. Okay, and this is something that I do on a daily basis. It's not a one time, go and do it. So if you're looking for, some type of guidance, sit there, take big deep breaths, ask yourself, how does this feel in my body? Right. And then if fear wasn't a factor, what would my heart choose? Right. That's a practice that you can do. Okay. That's a kind of entry level practice. But when to do this I do it every day, right? So I do daily meditation and mindfulness and heart coherence every single day, right? Quiet the anxious mind. And I do that every single morning so that I can hear what my intuition is guiding me to that day, right? And I do journaling. And when I'm going through tough times and when I have those anxious thoughts, I write them thoughts on paper, right? Then I pause and then I write what my intuition, is saying underneath all that noise. Now, I use intuitive writing daily, right? And I'll explain further when we go on to William Whitecloud's process, okay, at the end of this. But I do intuitive writing on a daily basis, and it's unbelievable what type of guidance I get through it and how it calms me, right? And then you're going to have these small nudges. It's not about these big blasting, things. Oh, go and do this or go and do that. There's going to be small nudges, right? Because when you allow yourself to meditate and get to a piece of present heart coherence, and you write down those anxious thoughts on paper, and then you write down what your intuition is saying, then you're going to have these small nudges, right? Intuitive impulses, and each step strengthens your relationship with your intuition. So I would advise to start with, commit to daily meditation, commit to journaling, just small actions. Each day you do that, your anxiety will weaken and your intuitive voice will grow clearer and louder, just like it done with myself. Okay, and what most people don't understand is anxiety often disguises itself, as intuition, but it's learning how to catch that, right? Because urgency versus patience, right? Anxiety rushes decisions, intuition patiently guides you, right? Fear versus love. Anxiety is rooted in fear, fear of losing or failing. Intuition is rooted in love, alignment, truth, and external, internal, right? Anxiety focus externally, okay? Approval, validation, where intuition guides you, inwards towards who you are, authenticity, right? It's so important that you build that relationship with that inner voice, okay? Because I can only say this now looking back, right? looking back, I could see how anxiety was masking itself as intuition. Okay, because I was always looking for the quick fixes or the immediate escapes from discomfort, which was the drink or instant gratification. It was anything that I could have it done immediately, right? So that was the anxiety. And when I realized that anxiety is just using a clever disguise, now I can catch it, okay? Because now it's what's in alignment with me, not like how quick can I get this done? What's true for me, right? And your intuition is your most powerful guide, right? And it's not just how it's like a superpower. And don't know if you know who Bob Proctor is, but Bob he's just passed away recently. He was a super successful guy, right? Created millions and helped so many people in coaching and stuff. But he talks about this a lot. He puts his intuition down to his success. Cultivating that connection with his intuition. Okay, because anxiety tries to keep you small, familiar, safe. Intuition guides you to your highest purpose. You're connecting to that higher self, your fullest potential. And sometimes it's going to take you to the uncomfortable places, but that's what it is. You need to address at that time. Your intuition is a direct line to the universe, right? Your higher self, you know, your soul's true path. It guides you towards who you were born to become. Not right, because fear wants just to keep you. It wants to keep you the same, right? And my intuition, it guided me through sobriety, starting my coaching business, rebuilding relationships, rebuilding myself, my body, and authentically showing up here with you today on YouTube. And I've never been happier in my life. Now, I've had periods in my life where I've had more money and I've had fancier things, but I was miserable. Now I'm at a place where, yeah, money's great, but it's not, the external is not my driving force. It's how I feel in here, right? So remember, anxiety restricts, intuition will free you. Okay, so let's get into the advanced technique, right, with William Whitecloud. And as I said, this is an advanced technique, and I would probably, if you've never done any intuitive work before, I would practice building that relationship up first. Okay, and it's called the symbol interpretation, right? So this is a superpower, and I do this for all my big decisions, right? And it's never let me down, not once, right? So the step one is being present, right? It's dropping into your heart. Okay, so you have to take the big deep breaths, get present, sit there, right? Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and drop into your heart, right? Put your in your heart, right? And then you imagine becoming childlike. So for me, what I would do is I would imagine my son or my daughter when they were a baby, right? Just innocent, curious, okay? And so I would just try and get into that childlike state again. And it's so important that you need to let go of everything you think you know about anything. You need to let go of everything, right? You do not need to know. You need to be here, childlike, like you were a child, okay? Where everything's new to you. And from that place of innocence, right, you become aware of subtle insights you couldn't access before. Okay, so when you're in this place, so you're in your heart space, you've dropped into your heart, you're like a childlike, okay, you're sitting there, then you clearly ask for a symbol representing the guidance you need. Okay, now a symbol can be anything. It can be a picture, a scene, a sensation, a sound, a feeling, a colour, a memory. Don't overthink it. Just there will be something that arises. So no matter what it is, that's what it is. So for example, okay, show me a symbol representing my next step in life. Okay, and it will give you something. Okay, accept the first thing you get without judgment, right? So no matter what it is, it could be a star, it could be a unicorn, it could be a phone, it could be a remote, anything, right? So you go with the first thing, okay? And then the next step is a crucial step, right? This is where you make it up. Okay, so once you've got the symbol, so you've went into the childlike state, you've sat there, you've been present, you've asked for a symbol. Okay, give me a symbol for the next step. You've got the symbol, and then you speak it out. So what I do is I speak it out and write at the same time. Okay, and then you say what this means to me is, and then you just continue. Okay, you keep talking and keep writing without analyzing, judging, or editing. Right? Don't wait for clarity. Right? Okay, just start talking and writing. Right? Because when you do that, then you're allowing your intuitive to guide you, and that's what I mean by intuitive writing. Okay, create clarity by speaking. Be specific. Describe what that means to you, the deeper meaning, as if you already understand it. Okay, trust your voice, right? Your voice has power. As Edgar Casey says, he was the greatest medical intuitive ever. He said the human voice carries the highest vibration of intuition. When you speak your interpretations aloud, your subconscious aligns, revealing, truths that your anxious mind just cannot access. Right? And I'll give you the real life example from me. Okay, and this was when I was uh, I was asking for the next step. Okay, and I didn't know what it was going to be. Right, so when I was looking for the next step, I asked for a symbol, and I got the symbol of a microphone. Right, and it was a microphone just there, and immediately I said, so what this means to me is I have a powerful message within. It's meant for the world. It's time to speak my truth, even if it's uncomfortable. I can't remember the exact wording, but that's what it was, right? So that had already kind of backed up what I had been feeling, but I had the vision of YouTube like 5-6 years ago, right? So then I got this guidance. Now this guidance came not this November the November before, so a year and a half ago, 18 months ago. Now, I started YouTube a month ago tomorrow, like 4 weeks ago tomorrow. So it still took me, I got that guidance, it still took me over a year to act on that, even though I knew it was true, but I still had other things to deal with in myself. So I spent a year, really reflecting on who I was, because I don't think at that point, I probably would have been ready, but I never done it anyway, and it took me 18 months before I pressed record, right? So if I would have done it back then, where would I be now? I don't know, but I got the guidance then. I knew it was true, but I never took the immediate action to hit record. What I done was I spent time with myself and creating the man that I wanted to be and seen as, and then I'm bringing him to you now, right? So the moment that you learn to discern clearly between intuition and anxiety, this is when your life will change, right? You will gain that true inner peace, right? Empowerment, right? Your intuition is always there. It's just waiting for you to listen, right? I wasted years doubting myself, but you don't have to. Learn to pay attention to your intuition, right? And you do that through awareness. Act courageously, and then watch how your life transforms, right? And I promise you, your intuition is a superpower. Okay, and if this helped clarify anything about your inner voice, your intuition, comment below. What intuitive nudges have you been ignoring? Okay, is it out of fear, anxiety? Commit to taking action from your intuitive nudges today. And if you're ready to live courageously, authentically, and intuitively, hit the subscribe button. Join me on this journey. I want to build a community where together we can step up powerfully into our higher selves. Okay, so I love you guys. There's another video for you right here, and you can subscribe right here. Take care. I'll catch you on the next one.